Nothing Maharaj. So we welcome Maharaj once again with a big applause. Hare Krishna. So we are so much benefited, we are so much enlightened by Maharaj's presence. We had three programs here in the region, and then one program in Mathuradesh too. So today we're going to have a very special evening with Maharaj, and it's going to be Vaishnava bhajans. So yesterday night while we were driving back from Mathuradesh, Maharaj was singing such beautiful bhajans. You know, he sang almost 10 of them, and without even looking at the book. So when we requested if Maharaj could engage us in these bhajans and lyrics. So one request, devotees kindly hear when Maharaj is singing and repeat exactly, because Maharaj is not happy next to the stage when he was singing something, devotees were singing something different. So he highlighted to us the importance of hearing.
Hare Krishna. So one song which we sing every morning in Mayapur, I think you'll all know. You know, when we greet Panchatattva, then we sing Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kora Mori. Right? I think you all know that song. It's a very meaningful song. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kora Mori Toma Vina Ki Dayalu Jagat Samsari. So it's a prayer. You know, when we sing the song, Srila Prabhupada said it's very important for us to know the meaning. If we don't understand the meaning, then we won't get the benefit from the song. So it's very important that we understand the meaning behind the song. So the song begins like that with a prayer to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Toma Vina Ke Dayalu Jagat Asamsari Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatara Mosamo Patita Prabhu Napa Evi Ara. So the author is praying to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you are very merciful. Lord Chaitanya, you know, we say Maha Vadanaya Avatar. He's the most merciful of all the incarnations of Lord Krishna, because he's giving freely love of God. He's giving the highest thing. He's giving Krishna prema to everyone. So it's a very special gift to get. So Lord Chaitanya is Patita Pavana. He's very merciful. He comes to deliver the fallen souls, and he comes to give them the highest thing, Krishna prema. So the author, Narottam Das Thakur, is praying that I'm very fallen. Please give me your mercy, because I'm very low-born, I'm very unqualified. So please be merciful to me. And so after praying to Lord Chaitanya, then he prays to Lord Nityananda. Haha Prabhu Nityananda, Premananda Sukhi, Kripa Bolo Kana Koro, Ami Baro Dukhi. So he's praying to Lord Nityananda that you are always joyful, as his name indicates Nitya Nanda, that he's eternally blissful. So he says, you're always joyful, and I'm very fallen, I'm very sad, I'm very miserable. Please be merciful to me. Please give your mercy to me. And then after praying to Lord Nityananda, then he prays to Advaita. Panchatattva, in the Panchatattva, three of the personalities are Vishnu Tattva. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, and Advaita Acharya. The three are all Vishnu Tattva. They're on the level with the Supreme Lord. So he prays to Advaita. Daya Koro Sitapati Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Bole Pai Chaitanya Nitai. He is praying to Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya is Sitapati. He's a married man, and his wife is known as Sita. So he addresses Advaita Acharya by saying Sitapati, husband of Sita. This is different from Lord Rama's Sita, of course. This is in the times of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is Sita Thakurani, was the wife of Advaita Acharya. So he prays to Advaita Acharya that if you will be merciful to me, then certainly Chaitanya and Nityananda will also be merciful to me. So this is the mood. We want to get the blessings, we want to get the mercy from these great devotees. So he's offering prayers to them. Daya Koro Sitapati Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Boli Pai Chaitanya Nitai. Right? To get the mercy of Chaitanya and Nityananda, if you get the blessings of Advaita, then certainly Chaitanya and Nityananda will also be kind to you. And then, after praying to Advaita Acharya, then he prays to the servants of Lord Chaitanya, some of the associates. Haha Swarupa Sanatan Rupa Raguna Bata Yuga Sri Jiva Prabhu Lokana Haha Swarup Sanatan Bata Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopal Bata Dasa Raghunath. Right. So Swarupa means Swarupa Damodar. Swarupa Damodar Goswami was the secretary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas and left his home in Mayapur and went to Jagannath Puri as a sannyasi. And when he went to Jagannath Puri, then many of his associates from Mayapur also came and joined him in Jagannath Puri. And one of these was Swarupa Damodar Goswami. Swarupa Damodar Goswami was one of the very intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya. There were 3.5 intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Rai, Swarup Damodar Goswami, Sikhi Mahiti, and Sikhi Mahiti's sister also. They were said to be the most intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Rai is said to be an expansion of the Gopi Vishaka, and Swarup Damodar was the expansion of the Gopi Lalita Sakhi. So Lalita Sakhi and Vishaka, they were the two intimate associates of Radha and Krishna. In the same way, Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai, they were the intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he praised Swarup, and then Sanatan and Rupa. Sanatan and Rupa were two brothers, and they had joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were the direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya had gone to meet them in a place called Ramakeli. Ramakeli is not far away from the city of Malda in Bengal. So Swarup Rupa and Sanatan, previously their names were Dabir Kas and Sakara Malik. Then they were engaged in the service of the Nawab Hussain Shah. The Nawab Hussain Shah was the emperor of Bengal in his time, in the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was very powerful. And Dabir Kas and Sakara Malik were actually from a Brahmana family. Somehow they had become engaged in the service of the Nawab Hussain Shah. But they had heard about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they had written to him. And Lord Chaitanya came there to Ramakeli and he met them. And he told them, better you leave this work. They were very highly placed. One was the Prime Minister and the other was the Chancellor of the Exchequer. So they were handling a lot of business on the behalf of the Nawab. The Nawab means like the emperor. And even if you go there today to Ramakeli, you can see the ruins of some of the palace of Nawab Hussain Shah. And this place is very important historically. And people often come from the Western world. Historians come there just to see this place. They come because of the Nawab. We go there to Ramakeli because Rupa and Sanatan used to live there. And the deities which they worshipped are still there today. And the footprints of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have also been installed there by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. So it's a very important place for us also. So Rupa and Sanatan, they are remembered. Swarup Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, another one of the Goswamis who were direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had gone to live in Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya sent some of his devotees there to Vrindavan to excavate the different holy places of Lord Krishna's pastimes and to establish temples showing the worship of Radha and Krishna. So Bhatta Raghunath, he was one of the Goswamis. Swarup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. So Jiva Goswami was the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan. There were three brothers originally, Rupa, Sanatan and Anupam. Right. So three brothers. Anupam left the body untimely and his son was Jiva Goswami. And Jiva Goswami came there, stayed with his two uncles, Rupa and Sanatan, and Jiva went on to become the head of the Goswamis there, because Rupa and Sanatan were much elder in age, so they expired from the world, and in their absence, Jiva Goswami became the leader, and Jiva Goswami purchased the land which is where the Rasasthala took place, and he secured many important places of Krishna's pastimes. So Jiva, Gopal Bhatta, Dasa Raghunath, Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das, he was the son of a very rich father. His father and his uncle were maintaining all the brahmanas in Bengal, but Raghunath had no interest. He did not like wealth. You know, sometimes people think, if I can get money, I will be happy. But it's not true. There are many cases people had a lot of money and they were not happy. One of the devotees in our Krishna consciousness movement is His Grace Ambarish Das. He is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he is from the family of Henry Ford, the founder of the Ford Motor Company. So he's from a very rich family. So a few years back, his mother left the world, and he brought her ashes to India to place his mother's ashes in the Ganga. At that time, he told the devotees, he said, you know, people think if they get money, they will be happy. But he said, I know it's not true, because I saw my mother. My mother had so much money, but she was never happy. He told us like that. He said, so this is the illusion of material life, that people are thinking, I will work hard, I will make money, and I will be happy. But it doesn't work out like that. And he told very clearly like that we have so much money, but so many people in our family are miserable. And my own mother was like that, unhappy. So Raghunath was from a very rich family, but he renounced the whole family and he went away and joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he lived a life of renunciation. First of all, he lived in Jagannath Puri, and then he lived in Vrindavan. And he went to Radhakund and resided at Radhakund there. And he cultivated the kunds there as we know them today. He was able to get support from wealthy people, and they built very beautiful Radha and Shama kund there. So Raghunath Das lived there, doing great austerities, and he lived to a very old age. And people were surprised, although he hardly ate and he hardly slept, but still he lived for a very long time. And he was always in the bliss of Krishna consciousness. So he was also a direct disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's remembered by Narottam Das in the song. And then Narottam Das finishes the song. He said, Daya Koro Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas Ramachandra Sangamagi Narottam Das. So Narottam Das Thakur, he's the author of this song. He was a very great devotee, and he was also one of the students in the Gurukula of Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami had, as I said, he was the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan, and he had a Gurukula in Vrindavan, and some young men were being sent there, the young devotees, and one of them was Narottam Das. He was from a wealthy family, not a Brahmanical family, but a wealthy family like Kshatriya. And he came there to Vrindavan, and he stayed there in Vrindavan. He studied all the Shastras from Jiva Goswami. And then Jiva Goswami sent him, along with Srinivas and Shamananda, he sent them back to Bengal and Orissa to preach Krishna consciousness. So he's saying, Daya Koro Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas. So this Srinivas, he was a friend of Narottam. They were both studying together in the Gurukula of Jiva Goswami. Srinivas and Narottam and Shamananda, they were the three prominent students. There were many other students, but these were the three prominent. So in the song, Narottam remembered Daya Koro Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas, Ramachandra Sangamali. Ramachandra Kaviraj was another friend of Narottam Das Thakur. Ramachandra Kaviraj, he wrote also songs. Narottam Das wrote many wonderful songs all about Krishna consciousness. So Narottam Das Thakur, he was a disciple of Lokanath Das Goswami. Lokanath Goswami had only one disciple, and that was Narottam Das Thakur. With great difficulty, Narottam got initiation from Lokanath. Lokanath did not want to take any disciple, but Narottam was so persistent that finally Lokanath agreed and gave him initiation. Actually, it was the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Narottam remembers Ramachandra Kaviraj and Srinivas. And this way he is praying, that he's praying to all the devotees, please be merciful to us, please be merciful to me. He's telling all of us the importance of association with devotees. Without association of devotees, then it is very difficult to make any advancement in Krishna consciousness. We need to have association. So this is the sum and substance of this song, that it's reminding us of the importance of association with devotees. Therefore, every morning when we greet the Panchatattva, we sing this song. And those of you who have been to Mayapur, you have heard it. So let us now first sing this song.
So the song is Sri Krishna Chaitanya to the new people. You can go to KK Songs and there you will find the song.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Paramore Chaitanya Prabhu Gaya So the next song, we wanted to go on to sing one more song here this evening. This is a very nice song by Govinda Das Kaviraj, Bhaja Hari Mana. Right? I think many of you may know this song. So this song begins, Bhaja Hari Mana Shri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindure. In this song, Govinda Das is addressing his mind. All of us, we need to address our mind, the restless mind. And he says, "Oh mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which makes one fearless." Right? In the material world, we are full of fear. We are always in fear of old age and disease and death. These things are there for everyone. So we live in constant fear, threats of economic problems and health problems, marital problems, employment problems, so endless problems, right? Material life, we live with a lot of fear. But if we worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, in other words, if we worship Lord Sri Krishna, we can become fearless. This is an important principle of spiritual life. By remembering Lord Krishna, we can become free from the problems of material existence. So we can become free of fear. Prahlad Maharaj also talks about becoming fearless by remembering Lord Nrsingadev. Certainly, if you have Lord Nrsingadev, you don't need to fear anyone else. Everyone fears Lord Nrsingadev, except for the devotees. Prahlad is not fearful of Lord Nrsingadev. So then he says, having obtained this rare human birth, we can cross over the ocean of material existence through the association of saintly devotees. Durlabha manava janamasat sange taraho ebavo sindure. Right? Human life is rare. We may think, oh, what's so rare? There's so many people. We're not so special. There's so many other people. But actually, human life is very rare, because the Vedas tell us there are 8,400,000 different species of life, and of these 84 lakh species of life, 4 lakh only are human species. So human species are only 4 lakhs out of 84 lakhs. There are so many more living entities. Even here in the desert, there's a lot of living entities, right? There's so many creatures in the sea, there's so many birds, there's so many trees, there's so many plants, so many insects. So, we're fortunate to have the human birth. But human life is made fortunate when we get the association of devotees. Because having obtained the human life, we have to make use of the human life. Human life is not meant for just solving economic problems. That is only one problem. But we have to understand the real problem, which is birth and death. That we are all here in this material world, and we have taken birth, and we will have to give up the body one day. Where are we going to go in the next life? We have to prepare for that. Just like many of you prepare for old age, I prepare for retirement. Where will we go? Maybe we'll go back to India, or maybe we'll stay here, whatever. You're preparing to do something. But we should also think about the next life. Don't just think only about this life and the economic problems of this life, but think about the next life also. Where are you going to go from here? Where are you planning to take your next birth? That's very important. We have one book, maybe you've read it, it's called Coming Back, The Science of Reincarnation. Very interesting book. Not very big book, it's written by one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. It's a small pamphlet, and it's about reincarnation. And the last chapter in the book is called Don't Come Back. Right? The book is called Coming Back, but the last chapter in the book says, don't come back. That is the real goal of human life, that we don't want to come back again into this material world. Why not? Because material life means again birth, old age, disease and death. Very temporary and miserable. So we want to free ourselves from birth and death. We want to get out of the wheel of birth and death, free of samsara. That is the real purpose of life. And so we have the human life, we have to use it to cultivate God consciousness. If we don't do that, then we're no different from the animal. The animals, they also eat. The animals also sleep. The animals also have their families, and they also defend. So eating, sleeping, mating, defending. This is the animal propensities. And if a human being is only engaged in these activities, then there's no difference between him and the animal. And we are dvipada pashu, two-legged animals. It's not very good, it's not very creditable. So we want to use the human life for the real purpose, to get free of birth and death. So Govinda Das then goes on to talk about the nature of the material world. He said, both in the day and night, I remain sleepless, suffering the pains of birth, suffering the pains of, what is this? Heat and cold, right, the wind and the rain, for a fraction of flickering happiness. I am uselessly served, wicked and miserly men. So material life is often like that. We find ourselves in that situation. We have to suffer the pains of the heat. Like now, here in this country, very hot. So, and then other countries can be very cold. So the pains, the wind and the rain, these different miseries of the material nature, you remain sleepless, suffering the pains of these different conditions. And we have to work, we have to go to the job. And why? Just for a fraction of flickering happiness. We get only flickering happiness. We don't get eternal happiness. We get some temporary pleasures from life. Alright, you go back to India for a month, or the children 2 months, then they have to come back again. The men, maybe they can only go for a month, they have to come back and work. So you get free, very short time, come back and work more. And you have to serve people who are not always of the noblest character. You may be lucky, you work for some pious people, but often you have to work for people who are wicked and miserly, and we have to work for them. So this is material life. So Govinda Das said, what assurance of real happiness is there in all of one's wealth, youthfulness, sons and family members? We're often thinking, I have my money, But the value of the money is always decreasing. It's not increasing. The value of your hard-earned money becomes less and less every year. It's the nature of the currency, right? It used to be 1 rupee was a lot of money, but now in India today, 100 rupees is like 1 rupee. 1 US dollar used to be 8 rupees. Now it's 80 rupees for $1. So the money, the value of the money becomes less, and the spending power is also less. So your wealth, your youth, how long are you young? You get old. You come and stay here 20, 30 years, you're old when you go back to India. You're not young anymore, you get old. Your youth is gone, and your children, you say, well, I have my children. Well, they're going to grow up, they're going to go away, and they're going to have their own lives. They will have their own families, their own jobs. They will leave you. They're not going to stay with you forever. How long will the children be with you? So all of these things are no security for you. So Govinda Das is saying, this life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore, one should always serve and worship the lotus feet of Lord Hari. He said, this life is like a drop of water on the lotus leaf. The lotus leaf, of course, is waterproof. The leaf does not absorb the water. The water rolls off the leaf back into the pond. So human life is like that. It's very temporary, and then it's over, and then we have to take another birth. And we don't know where the next life will be, what kind of body you're going to take. Now you have the human life, but if in the next life you become a dog, it's not very good, is it? We are running on 4 wheels, and the dog is on 4 legs. But the business is the same. Where is food? Where is sleep? The same business. What is the difference? So if in this life we live like the hogs and the dogs, next life you may get the body of the hog or the dog. We have to be very careful and make proper use of the human life. Use it for self-realization. Lord Rishabdev, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Rishabdev is described that he had 100 sons and he was retiring. He was a great king, an emperor of the world, and he was giving it all up to go into the forest to prepare for the next life. Because the Vedic system is like that. Brahmachari, Grihastha, then Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. You don't remain in Grihastha life. You go on from Grihastha life. You have to go on into the next ashram, which is the Vanaprastha, retired life, right? We have to retire. You cannot keep working all your life and then think next life I will continue. That's not very good. We have to understand a higher purpose to life. And therefore Vedic culture prescribes, they say, Pancha Sorvam Vanam Brajat. The Vedas say from age of 50 or thereabout, you're meant to retire. Means to go to the forest. Rishabdev was a king. He was giving it all up. He had 100 sons. He was leaving them, going to the forest. Wife was also going with him. The women also meant to take Vanaprastha, not meant to stay with the children. Go with the husband also, and go where you're meant to go. In this age, of course, difficult to go to forest. Where is the forest here in Oman? No trees anywhere, only desert. So we can go. But we have ISKCON centers. Those people who are fortunate, they will go to the ISKCON center. Many people have retired to our Mayapur center, our Vrindavan center, our Chennai center, Trivandrum. We have many centers around India, and many of the devotees who have retired from their jobs here in the Middle East, they go back and they take shelter in the Krishna conscious community. And in this way, they prepare themselves for the next life, because they're living in a spiritual community where people are concerned with making spiritual advancement, serving the Supreme Lord. So this is important. This is the Vedic culture. Retirement, not full retirement, but retirement from money. Not worrying all the time about making more money and taking up spiritual work, working for the pleasure of Lord Krishna, spiritual activities. So like that, many devotees come and live in our Krishna conscious centers, and they enjoy the spiritual atmosphere and the association of like-minded people who are also interested in preparing for the next life. It's very important. Alright, so how to prepare? The life is tottering like a drop of water on the lotus. So we have to take shelter and worship the lotus feet of Lord Hari. And how to do that? Well, that is described in the final verse by Govinda Das said. He says, it is the desire and great longing of Govinda Das to engage himself in the 9 processes of bhakti, namely hearing the glories of Lord Hari and chanting these glories, completely remembering him and offering prayers to him, serving the Lord's lotus feet, serving the Supreme Lord as a servant, worshipping him with flowers and incense and so forth, serving him as a friend and completely offering the Lord one's very self. So this way 9 angas of bhakti are described here by Govinda Das. They begin with Shravanam and Kirtan, hearing and chanting. First comes the hearing. You hear nicely, then you can chant nicely. First comes hearing, then chanting, then smaranam, remembering, meditating. People like to meditate, but if you have not heard and chanted, then you won't be able to remember. You won't be able to meditate properly. First comes hearing and then chanting, and then you can remember. Then you can meditate. And then serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Serving the lotus feet of the Lord means doing things like going to holy places and doing parikrama in the holy places. It means also worshipping Tulsi Maharani. Here you can see the Tulsi tree, because the Tulsi leaves are offered at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. We can also serve the great acharyas like Srila Prabhupada. By serving the acharyas, they have taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. So serving the lotus feet, offering prayers, that is also important. Every day we should be reciting prayers, worshipping the Lord. We have many prayers which we recite regularly. And so this is a very important part of Bhakti Yoga, to recite prayers for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. There are prayers offered by Prahlad Maharaj. There are prayers offered by Queen Kunti. There are prayers offered by Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. There's so many prayers are there, we can recite them. And we recite the Mahamantra, which is a prayer. It's a very simple prayer. Everyone can recite that prayer. very easily, very simply. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Yes, this is a prayer, and this is also the answer to the prayer. Because we're praying to the Lord, oh my Lord, please engage me in your service, please help me. And by chanting the holy name, Lord Krishna is helping us, because he's giving us his association in the form of the holy name. So chanting is offering a prayer. And then also, we can serve the Lord, just like Hanuman is a servant of the Lord. He wants to render, he's always kneeling with his hands folded, waiting for some service. So this is the mood of a devotee. We want service, we like to serve. We're not trying to be the master, we want to be the servant. In materialistic life, everyone wants to be the master, they want to be the controller. But in Vaishnavism, in Krishna conscious philosophy, we want to become the servant of the servant, many times the servant. We want to cultivate that humility, which is important. So serving, being a servant, and then becoming a friend, just like Arjuna was a friend of Lord Krishna. Bhakto sime sakacheti rahasyam. Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, I'm speaking this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to you because you're my devotee as well as my friend, so you can understand this. So we can cultivate friendship with Lord Krishna. And then finally, Atmani Vedanam, surrendering everything, giving up everything for the service of the Lord. And this was seen by people like Bali Maharaj. Lord Vamanadev came and he took everything away from Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj had conquered the heavenly planets and he was controlling the whole universe. All the demigods were serving him. But Lord Vamanadev came and took it all away and sent him back to the lower region of the universe. But Lord Vamanadev he did not mind. He willingly surrendered everything to the Lord. And there's an example also that Queen Rukmini, Lord Krishna's favorite wife, she also surrendered everything to Lord Krishna to become his consort. She was ready to give up her life for many, many births just to have Lord Krishna as her husband. So there are many nice examples of devotees who surrendered everything for the service of Lord Krishna. But becoming a friend and surrendering everything, they're very elevated kinds of bhakti. We have to cultivate from the beginning, we have to practice carefully hearing and chanting. Shravanam and Kirtan, they are the roots of the creeper of devotion. So if we get a good foundation by hearing and chanting, then our bhakti can go on to become stronger. And then we can think about cultivating other forms of devotion and go on to become the friend and surrender everything. Alright, so this is the meaning of this song. Very nice song by Govinda Das Kaviraj. So we'll try and sing it. We hope you can also follow.
Vande